Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in and listening once again. And for all those who are listening for the first time, thank you. Today, I wanted to take a different approach. And I'm, of course, going to be looking at my notes to make sure that I stay on topic and to make sure I don't go on too much of a tangent. But today, I wanted to, like I said, go a different route. So many of you know me as a licensed master social worker. I'm a mother also, which some of you didn't know. So that's something I kind of wanted to tap into today. Um, I am, like I said, I'm a mother of one. And today I just want to share some of the lessons that I've learned along the way that has shifted my experience from one that has been uh, challenging to where it felt like I was honestly surviving. And it has gone from that state to one that is genuinely enjoyable. I love it, honestly. And I can say that today I really enjoy being a parent. And so I wanted to talk about this because, I was on TikTok scrolling and there's still a lot of conversation about estrangement, no contact, and the pain that adult children carry. Like I said before, I understand both sides with the parents and the adult children, but something that I don't really hear about too often is the joy of parenting. And so, like I said before, I was not always in a place where parenting felt like it was a joy to do. But that perspective, that shift came with growth. And so, one of the first major shifts that I want to touch on, it makes me chuckle every time I think about it or even say it out loud. This one shift is so simple, but transformative. And it is remembering that your child is a child. So I said I was going to talk about me. So let me make it like this. I had to remember that my child is a child. And of course, it sounds super obvious, right? But it required me to lower my unrealistic expectations. And I say this because I am the oldest of my family, my mother's children. So I adapted early, I matured early. I carry responsibilities as the oldest siblings. I'm also the only girl, and at one point, I was questioning my child, like, why does it seem like she doesn't have the same urgency as I did when I was her age? Is it something that I'm doing wrong? Why does it seem like you just don't care? And honestly, in reality, is because a lot of things she don't care about. She enjoys being a child, and she doesn't have the same responsibilities that I had when I was her age. And so I brought this to my one of my brothers, and he gave me this perspective, rather so reminded me. He said, maybe you were not naturally that way. You just adapted to your circumstances. And I was like, I really thought that I was just naturally responsible, mature. And I probably was. My mom said that I was to a degree, but it was probably expanded to make sure that I was able to help out around the house when it was requested or when I saw that there was a need. So when he brought this back to the forefront of my attention, my perspective, it changed something in me. It shifted something. And so I now know, of course, and realize that my child does not have to adapt to survive. I know that's something I personally didn't want her to have to experience. She's going to have her own things. She doesn't have to take on what I experience either, especially if it's not hers to be taken on. So she gets to be a child. And that means I get to parent her based on who she is, not on who I had to become, or like I said, on the responsibilities that I had to carry when I was her age. And that also means that I don't have to parent exactly how I was parented. My mother was learning as well. And with her, I can be honest, I can be transparent, and I admit that I'm still learning, and not just with her, but just even with myself. I don't know everything there is to know about being a parent. And I know it sounds cliche, you can have so many books about parenting, so many classes, but you still really don't fully know what it means to parent until you're in the midst of it and you're going through it stage by stage by stage, level by level by level. And you may find yourself growing in that stage and through those different levels as well. I know I found myself in that. And so that leads me to the second point, um, which made me realize that I get to have compassion on myself because I sometimes get it wrong. And I am someone who has grown to ask my child for forgiveness when it is needed. Um, I'm not, I know that that may sound weird to some people too, but for me and for my household, that's necessary. Some people may question that, like, why would you ask your child for forgiveness? But here's how I see it. Children learn relationship dynamics at home first. They learn it here. And they learn what apology looks like, not toxic apologies, not apologies with strings attached. They learn what apology looks like from somebody that cares for them and about them. And they know what apology looks like when that same person that they love and care about um, maybe showed up in a way that wasn't so well, right? Because we don't always get it right. They get to know that they don't have to be perfect in this world. They don't have to walk it out in a way that makes it seem like they have it all together. I will model that first so that you can learn how to do it as well when it's your turn. And so, like I said, they learn what apology looks like. They also learn repair and they learn boundaries. So if I raise my voice in a way that is so unnecessary and not needed, I acknowledge that. And she doesn't always have to tell me that. Sometimes I can feel it in my body. Sometimes if you sit even just a second long enough, you hear how you sound. You hear, you're like, oh, I'm actually kind of over exaggerating right now. I'm making this more than what the situation is calling for. And you know, it's okay. Take your space to get that, to know that, acknowledge it, and you can apologize for that if that's what it calls for. You know, like I said, it's not about us being perfect, but let's be honest. We don't always get it right. Sometimes we raise our voices when it's not called for. And guess what? Children love to model what they see us do and how we do it. And so if you want to know how you show up, look at your children. They will show you and tell you. All right, let me go back. I said I was going to stay to my notes. Where am I? Okay, yeah. So if I raise my voice in a certain type of way, um, I let it be known that, you know, I was wrong. If I misinterpret something, I correct it. And that teaches her that relationships are not about perfection, as was mentioned already. It's about responsibility. I recently watched a video with two siblings and their mother. One of the siblings shared that she liked her younger sister's hair. The younger sister responded by saying, I know, I'm that girl. The mom shut that down. She said, no, you say thank you. And the younger sibling was confused. She was like, but why? That's my sister. Her mom pointed out to say that you don't, let me pause. Before I get to the mom response, when the younger sibling said, why? That's my sister, she also went on to respond to say, I would say thank you to a stranger, but to my sister, I wouldn't do that. That's weird. And so, fast forward to what I was going to say. The mom reiterated that you don't respect someone that's outside of your home. You don't respect the stranger more than you do the people that's in your home, the people that love you, your family, your sister. You don't do that. Why would you show someone that doesn't even know you more respect than the people that treat you well, the people that love you, etc.? And so the moment highlights something that's important. That's respect and character. So going back to what I was speaking of initially, parenting became joyful when I stopped focusing only on behavior and started focusing on modeling. Because focusing on behavior may drive you mad. It may drive you to a point where you feel like you might need to go check yourself in somewhere. Mm, okay. And so here's another shift. My child taught me the importance of taking breaks. Yes, yes, yes. Busy parents, busy parents. Breaks are so important, and they have been changing my life for the better. Because I've learned that I don't need huge dramatic breaks in my day or in the week. I don't have to disappear for hours. I don't have to take a long vacation, even though those things are nice. But intentional pauses is where it's at. So let's say if I'm working from home one day and she is at home with me because she doesn't have school that day, I clearly communicate with her, sometimes even the day before, that this is my work time. I let her know what block that is. And let's say, for instance, I might say, okay, so at lunch, we are going to eat together. And then we get to play or do a certain activity for 30 minutes. This is just an example of some of the things I've learned to do, or even that you can adopt as well, because structure creates safety. Predictability can also build trust, and flexibility builds connection. I am someone who really lived on rigid structures. If I had something set um, within a certain time frame, don't even try to come within that block. Now, there are times where certain activities, certain tasks need to be completed within that certain time block. However, there are also times where there can be a little bit more flexibility, especially when you're working from home and the children are there. So for me, it's not about prioritizing. No, it's not about balancing everything equally, but about prioritizing wisely. And that's something that I have learned to do as a parent. And so, um, like I said, I am I'm a social worker. I'm also a therapist, but some of the things that I have learned to be the most beneficial lessons for me have been in my home and experiences as a parent. Our children learn from repetition. They learn from observation. They love watching. And they may not fully understand our lessons until they see them play out in real time. So let's say with their friends at school or in moments of conflict. I'm saying this because sometimes it seems like you may repeat the same thing to your child over and over and over and over again, multiple times throughout the week, 50 million times throughout the year. And it's like, it's not even going through the one ear. So how can it possibly go out the other? It's like they just don't get it. One, let's keep uh, their developmental markers in mind. Where are they at mentally, and can they fully comprehend what we're saying in the way that we're saying it? And two, maybe they also have to see it in action to fully comprehend what it is that you're trying to teach them, what it is that they're learning. And so, yeah, repetition is good. And like I said, sometimes they don't really understand what's going on until they see it in action for themselves. So please don't beat yourself up because it just seems like, my gosh, if I have to tell you one more time what this means, or to do this or to do that, it just builds all this frustration. So, you know, eh, we learn, we learn. I'll just say that. But yes, sometimes they have to see it in the setting that they're more familiar with, and then they'll put the pieces together, especially as they get older too, those cognitive skills. All right. And so when those moments come, they recall what we said and they recall what we modeled. And so we set the foundation on how they treat others and also how they allow others to treat them. Here's another thing, like forgiveness, accountability, emotional regulation. And as you guys know, these aren't just concepts that we throw out there just because. They are daily practices that adults, we ourselves, are still learning how to do well. Some adults still don't necessarily know how to regulate their emotions. So, let alone the children. So, all this to say, of course, parenting has its challenges, but it also has so many deep rewards. And for me, the rewards came when I let go of unrealistic expectations, when I let go of distorted perspectives, and also when um, I unclenched my fist and my hands on just some of the experiences that I was holding on to, like maybe from my upbringing or from things I learned along the way. And when I let go of what I thought, you know, things should be, my hands like this, because honestly, at a point, I was just like, I've tried everything else. What else am I supposed to do now? Can somebody please help me? And I kind of, like I said, went from survival into enjoying. And I felt like I started to breathe again. And I started to feel again. And I started to develop a different connection with my child. And that's when things became joyful. We started to laugh more. She always laughed, but I find that we laugh more together. And I also know that sometimes, I would hold my laughter back because there would be so many moments when I would try to be serious and she does a face and I just want to crack up laughing. But I'm like, I gotta be serious in this moment so she know that I'm not joking around, but whatever. There's times for different things. But we have such a good time. And even though we laugh together, she still respects me. She still has areas to grow in. I still have areas to grow in, but we're growing. I learn from her. She learns from me. We not only just grow together, but we repair together. We laugh so much. And the laughter tells me that we're building something solid and something healthy. And so individual work matters. The work that you do, the work that you do yourself directly impacts how you show up at home. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the growth becomes real when you practice it with the people that's closest to you. It's like, that classroom based knowledge versus field knowledge. You can learn all the things in a textbook, but what does it look like in the real world? That's what the practice is for. My daughter gives me feedback and she lets me know when I show up well. She lets me know when I don't. I let her know when she shows up well and when she doesn't. And I take the feedback, seriously. And she does the same for the most part. And so the growth has been one of the greatest gifts of parenting. And to also not allow other people's opinions to infiltrate what it is that we're building. And for people's familiarity with how girls are, or how they treat their parents when they become a certain age, or how their girls' relationships are typically with their mother and when they become teenagers. And I'm just like, that don't mean that has to be the case for us, you know? And that's another reason why we're being proactive now. We're doing things with intention. Somebody's story over here doesn't have to be our story. And just like my story isn't her story. I'm sure she'll have her times where she's like, remember that time when you did this? Yeah, I do. Sometimes I don't remember. But yeah, this is what we're building. And so I would love to hear from you guys on what are some of the joys of parenting that you've been experiencing or have experiencing, and even some of the challenges that you may still be facing. Either or, I would love to hear from you. As stated before, thank you so much for your ears. Thank you so much for your investment of time. And until next time, love on yourselves. love on each other.